Hello, and welcome back for the story for today. When we left off yesterday, Esther, remember Queen Esther? She was trying to make a hard choice because she knew that she had to do something to help her family, and the only way she could do it was to talk to the king. And you couldn't just go up to him and start talking to him. If you did, there was a law you could be killed. But she was afraid that if she didn't do that, that her family would be killed too. So she came up with a plan, which is where we left off last night. Tonight's story tells us about how the plan unfolded. Esther stood in the palace hall so that the king would be sure to see her. And the king did see Esther, and he was happy. He motioned for her to come to him. The king said, "If you ask for half of my kingdom, I'll give it to you." Esther quickly replied, "What I would like would be for you and for Haman to come and have supper with me today." The king was very pleased with this, and he granted Esther's wish. It's fun to have dinner, sit down with somebody you like, and just spend some time together. And that's a wonderful thing. And when you do that, a lot of times you're just hanging out, but sometimes you're talking about really important things. And so she was going to talk to him about some important things. That'd be a good place to do it, don't you think? And she invited him to bring Haman along. He's one of the king's big advisors. And here they are, sitting down to supper. They've got some grapes. They've got some bread. They've got those bananas, I think. Maybe some muffins. It's hard to tell. But they're having a good meal. That much is clear. When Haman ate dinner with the king and queen that night, he was very happy. Haman didn't know that Esther was Mordecai's cousin. At the end of the meal, the king asked Esther if she had any requests of him. And she said, "I would like to prepare another meal for you and for Haman tomorrow." And again, the king granted her wish. But that night, something happened. That night, the king couldn't sleep, and a servant brought his record book. "Read to me," said the king. And it wasn't just reading it to him so he could hear a good bedtime story and fall asleep. He read to him because he wanted to go over his records. He thought he had forgotten something. And that happens sometimes. Do you ever have something on your mind when wake up with it in the middle of the night, like, I forgot to turn the water off in the sink and it's probably running and it's overflowing and flooding? Or you'd probably hear that if that happened. Or maybe, I forgot to put the food out for the cat for morning. Or maybe, I forgot my homework. These are things you should remember. But sometimes when you go to sleep and you wake up in the middle of the night, and your brain is telling you, hey, wake up, something happened. Well, that night, that's what happened to the king, King Xerxes. And he asked somebody to read to him the part about when Mordecai saved the king's life. "How did I thank Mordecai for this?" the king asked. Here's a picture of the king having the records read to him. And he didn't remember saying thank you to Mordecai, and he had them check the records to see. Because it's important. Do you ever write thank you notes when you get a present for your birthday or for Christmas? It's an important thing to do, and it helps people. They know that you appreciate what they did for you, and makes you feel better too. Well, The king said, "How did I thank Mordecai for saving my life?" And the servant said, "Nothing was done." The next day, Haman returned to the palace. The king asked him, "How would you honor a man who had made the king happy?" Well, Haman thought the king was talking about him. Haman said, "I would give the person a beautiful robe, and I'd put him on a horse, and I'd have somebody lead the horse all through the city, and everywhere they went, they'd shout out, 'This person has done great things for the king.' That way everybody would be, 'Yay, hooray, hurrah!' They'd be cheering for them all the time. Be like a parade, but you'd be the only person in the parade. The whole parade would be for you." And so he said, "Yeah, that's what you should do. You should give this guy a parade." "Well," said Xerxes, "then go find Mordecai and do all these things for him at once." Well, remember Haman didn't like Mordecai? Remember Haman really wanted to get rid of Mordecai? And now he's the guy that came up with the idea of giving Mordecai a parade and having everybody say how great he was. Well, Haman wasn't happy, but Haman had to obey the king. That's probably a good stopping point for today. And the story is going to get even more exciting tomorrow. So if you wake up in the middle of the night tonight and you've got something on your mind, maybe you better pay attention to it. But if it's something you can't do anything about, then just write yourself a note and get to it in the morning. Because there's not much you can do at 3:30 in the morning about anything. So, meanwhile, have a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.